Hey all, Sai here. Well, I was asked to review some products. I got an email and they said, will you look at our stuff? And so it's an art supply store. And so what really caught my eye that I use all the time are little paintbrushes. And I usually use those when I'm doing my intarsia and at the very end when the glue is squirting out, when I'm gluing down the piece to the backer board, then I clean out, clean off all the extra glue, and I love that. Other time I use brushes are when I am repairing some of the black on my routed signs. And so what else they had on their webpage was self-adhesive vinyl. What's really cool is these are 12 by 12 sheets, and all the vinyl I've gotten before was in rolls. And so this is kind of new to me to use it in sheets like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try out those products by making 3 different kinds of signs. I am going to make one out of routering, I'm going to make one out of vinyl, and I'm going to make one out of scrolling. So let's get started. My Cricut machine, which is my vinyl cutter, is like a first generation, so I can't hook it up to my computer and just make a design and print out what I want, because I really want this font to be used. So if I use my Cricut machine, it's not going to be that font. But I thought of something else. What I could do is I could take some carbon paper, I could trace this onto a piece of the vinyl, and then cut it out myself with an X-Acto knife. So that's what I'm going to try to do. This box is full of a ton of colors, so I searched through them and it was really tough to choose. Let's use lilac. I don't know if that's really what color it is or not, but I'm going to say it's lilac. Then I taped it down, put carbon paper under it, and traced over it. It worked really well. Then I started cutting out the letters with an X-Acto knife. I used a brand new X-Acto blade and it was really easy to cut the vinyl. Then I peeled off the extra vinyl around the letters.
About this much right here.
Then I used contact paper and stuck it onto the word so I could transfer it to my wood. Then I removed the white backer paper to expose the sticky part of the vinyl. My piece of cedar board, and I'm going to just set this on there. I used my little frosting spreader to make sure the vinyl stayed in place while I removed the contact paper. Well, it's not as crispy clean as it would be if it was with the vinyl cutter. So let's just cut one and see what it looks like. Won't be the same font, but I think we can make it work. I think we can.
Alrighty, let's do this. Okay, Shift W E L C O M E, and let's lower our paper. Lower, and let's start cutting.
So I did the same steps here and then transferred it to another piece of cedar. There's the Cricut sign. Cool. Okay, well let's move on to routering. I started off with a profile bit and went around all of the letters. I'm using a different clean out bit than I usually use. I'm using the 5/8 V-groove bit. Just trying something different. I had been using a round nose bit, and I'm not sure which one I like better at this point, but this one took out all the background pretty quickly. I sprayed it off with some air and used a stiff bristled brush to get rid of all those loose pieces. Oh, and I missed showing that I routed the outside edges of this sign. Okay, well, I'm ready to go out and spray this with the primer. And then while that's drying, I'll work on the scroll saw welcome sign. Cool! I sprayed it with the black primer, focusing on the routed background and the edges, even though the paint kind of went everywhere. Alright, on to the scroll saw sign. I sprayed it with Loctite adhesive and let it sit for a minute or so. I am going to use a Pegasus Modified Geometry No. 5 scroll saw blade that cuts 1/3 of an inch to 1 inch. And it looks like that. Then I stuck on the word and started sawing it out. Then removed the papers, started hand sanding, and painted a hardboard backer. Then it was back to the routed sign. I started sanding with 40 grit, and then 80 grit. Wally wants to sit on my lap while I do the painting, and Gibbs is laying in the bedroom on the bed. It's really, really windy and stormy today, but it's not real cold, so that's good. All right, Wally. Look at that. Yeah. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and I'm going to touch up everything with the brushes from Arteza. See how I like them. I've used a Sharpie for this before, but sometimes the Sharpie can't reach everywhere. So here I used acrylic paint and it gets into those little nooks better. This tiny stiff brush worked really well for this. Then back to the scrolled sign. I put on some wood glue and I spread it with a little brush and placed it onto the backer. I tried cleaning the squeeze out with one of the little brushes, but switched to a bigger brush to get the job done quicker. And placed some sand along with some sandbags to hold pressure while it dried.
Okay, let's take the sand off. The sandbags.
Nice. I'm going to put Danish oil on now. I thought the walnut Danish oil would make this lilac color more visible, and it really did. Then I put it on all of the other signs too. On the scroll saw sign, I used a big brush to spread the Danish oil, and then the little brushes from Arteza to get into those tiny areas that the cloth and the big brushes couldn't reach. Then I put a clear coat on them. I should have placed my logo and verse on the back of these before I stained them, but I did it after the fact, and it turned out okay. I found 4 verses from 2 different versions about welcoming folks, so I thought they really fit well. Hebrews 13:2 in the New Century Version says, "Remember to welcome strangers, because some who have done this have welcomed angels without knowing it." Cool! Romans 12:3 in the New Century Version says, "Share with God's people who need help. Bring strangers in need into your homes." 1 Peter 4:9 from the English Standard Version says, "Show hospitality to one another without grumbling." And Romans 15:7 in the English Standard Version says, "Therefore welcome one another as Christ has welcomed you for the glory of God." I added some eye hook hangers to the vinyl signs, a wire hanger to the routed sign, and made a hole in the scroll saw sign to just attach it to the wall. Well, the signs are all done. And you know what? I was going to give up on these because I didn't like how they were turning out, but I kept on going and I really like all of them now. So cool. So the scroll saw one, the routed one, and the 2 vinyl ones, this one with the vinyl cutter and this one with me cutting it out by myself. But the vinyl worked out pretty well. And then the little brushes, I touched up some spots on here with the little brushes and I cleaned out the glue. They were too small to do the glue clean out, but they were perfect for touching up the little spots that needed some extra black on the routed sign. So I'm excited to try to use those brushes for other painting type things. And this one is kind of funky there, but it was a knot. And I think that actually looks kind of cool. Anyway, I have a link down in the description box to Arteza and to those 2 products that I used. You can also check out what other art supplies they have. Anyway, thanks for joining me, everybody, and we'll just see you next time. Bye!